Inkatha Freedom Party President Velenkosini Hlabisa will deliver the eulogy at the funeral service of IFP leader and Member of Parliament Khethamabala Petros Sithole in Nkandla in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Sithole was gunned down during a shooting at the Buyafuthi Hostel in Katlehong in Gauteng last week. He was a member of the IFP's National Council and served as the party's Deputy Chief Whip in Parliament. Sithole also served as a member of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technology. The two suspects arrested in connection with Sithole's death appeared in the Palmridge Magistrate's Court 3 days ago. SABC News reporter Ayanda Mhlongo is live to us from that funeral service. Ayanda, I did see the ANC's some ANC members also in attendance at that funeral service. And in fact, I did also see that the IFP president has also arrived at the funeral service at this particular stage.
Yes, Crusadal, IFP President Velenkosini Hlabisa has arrived, of course, with other senior leaders of the IFP. There is also leaders of the ANC and a representative of the National Assembly. Also here, of course, as we know, that Khethamabala Sithole was also a member of the, he was on the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technology, of course, as well as the supporters of the IFP, as we've been saying, Criselda. They have come from Nkandla, other parts of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as other provinces here to bid their final farewells to a man that has been described as a trusted patriot, as a selfless leader who has served the IFP from the early 70s, joining the youth structures and then serving in various positions up to the leadership, national leadership positions. And of course, Criselda, now let me just step out of shot just for our viewers to see there, just in the distance, you have Amabutho that have also here, and we are now following a custom where Amabutho will also here playing their role in terms of the rituals that needed to be followed. It's Amabutho, we understand, that are going to be, that went to the family homestead to collect the body, and together then with the family, they will then be making their way here to the main marquee. As you see visuals there, the body of the late Mr. Khethamabala Sithole, as he now carried by Amabutho under the Sithole clan. They are now entering the marquee. Just notably, some of the leaders, of course, that are expected to speak at this funeral service. We have on behalf of Parliament, Mr. Frolic House, the chairperson in the National Assembly, also the IFP Parliamentary Caucus leader, Gauteng, who's also the IFP Chief Whip, and of course representing the province of Gauteng will be Mr. Bonginkosi Dlamini, who is the chairperson of the IFP in the province of Gauteng. And that is where, of course, Mr. Sithole led the IFP for a considerable number of time. And the visuals now, neighbors and family members, as his body makes its way now into the main marquee. We're standing with me as a leader of the IFP Youth Brigade, Mr. Mhlongo, all the way from Gauteng, of course, to also share his reflection on the life of Mr. Sithole. Mr. Mabaso, thank you so much for your time. I was speaking earlier on to your spokesperson, Mr. Hlengwa, quite emotional, and I know that it also has been a difficult week for yourselves, in particular the youth. We are told that Mr. Sithole had a special relationship with young leaders of the IFP.
Well, thank you very much. We would also like to convey our deepest condolences to the family, to the members of the IFP, and to the neighbors here in the village. Yes, of course, Mr. Sithole had a very special relationship with the youth brigade in the organization. He's one leader who was not afraid to tell us when we've done wrong. He will reprimand us, he will show us the way, he will guide us. He was a peacemaker. He dealt with quite a lot of conflicts, especially in the hostels in Gauteng. Every time when young people, they deviate from the culture and the policies of the organization, he will call you to his home. He will educate you, he will guide you. So he was that kind of a leader. You couldn't tell that he was a member of parliament. The way he conducted himself, amongst the people. He was a public servant. He respected everyone. He respected leaders, in different positions. He respected us. We were the youth, but he respected us as young people in the position. So that's the kind of a leader. We really lost, a great leader. Here, we lost a servant of the people. We lost someone, who knew that, who knew what needs to be done when you deal with issues of community, issues of service delivery. He represented the views and the plight of the people in parliament. Every time when he speaks, he makes reference to the realities on the ground, and that was the kind of a leader he.
You also have quite a massive task being a leader of the IFP outside KwaZulu-Natal. The IFP, as we know, its stronghold is here, its heart is here in KwaZulu-Natal. And I could imagine then, as yourself, a younger leader of the party, having to go outside the borders of your of the province, of your home province, to grow this party. It's the likes of Mr. Sithole that have helped you to even where you are now.
Well, they paved the way for us. That during the dark days of apartheid, and when we were heading towards the general elections in 1994, it was very difficult for the IFP and the ANC in Gauteng, and he was right at the center of that, mediating, bringing in peace, and that's what we know him for. He was able to penetrate and get into the areas and the spaces where it was difficult for the IFP, to enter. But he made it easier, because he was a peacemaker. He always preached the gospel of peace. He always mediates when there are conflicts, and that was the kind of a person, and that's why now it's easier for us in Gauteng to get into townships and to get into hostels, to work, to campaign and to mobilize membership, because he was leading at the forefront. So that was the kind of a person. In fact, the peace, the decorum that you see now in Gauteng, it was because of his contributions. While I was still young at Buyafuthi Hostel, I known him from there. I was still young. I was not a politician at the time. I was just a young person who was growing up in the hostel. And there was this Mr. Sithole who always came, to mediate when there are conflict, to address the public meetings. Every time when he spoke about peace, how people should, respect each other, how people should behave in our communities, and all those. And so that is the kind of a person. And we thank him for that, for making sure that, it's easier for us to work, in Gauteng, in places where IFP could not, in fact, get in to mobilize and campaign for the organization.
Before I let you go, obviously now the work of the IFP will continue, has to continue in Gauteng. How do you now move on without this leader, as you're saying, that has left an indelible mark for the IFP and assisted yourselves and many other leaders to grow the party in that particular province?
Yeah, well, it's the teachings. He taught us a lot. We know now what needs to be done. We will take what he has taught us and also cascade it to the generation that is upcoming, because I think it's imperative that the teachings of Mr. Sithole, we use that, to grow the organization, to mobilize more for the organization, and also, to also mediate where there are conflicts, and also to preach the gospel of peace, and also make sure that those that are growing, they adhere and align themselves to the policies, the values, and the culture of the organization, because that's what Mr. Sithole taught us.
Amabutho, thank you so much for your time and your reflections on the late Khethamabala Sithole. Of course, you would have seen also there in your visuals, Criselda, as I was speaking to Mr. Amabutho, the son of the founder of the IFP, Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and that is Prince Zuzifa Buthelezi, also making his way into the marquee. As we said, the family are now in the marquee, and this of course marks the start of the funeral service. As the SABC, we will be bringing our viewers live coverage of this funeral and continue to speak to members of the IFP, leaders of the IFP, but also importantly community members here who have also hailed Mr. Sithole for the role that he has played, in particularly as a champion of rural development, coming from an extremely remote and rural part of Nkandla, and this is Gauteng village, and just seeing what he has done in particular for this village and the plans that he had for the area of Nkandla and of course other rural parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Certainly a great loss to the IFP. If you hear sentiments being shared by the spokesperson of the IFP, the role that he played in nurturing in particularly young leaders of the IFP, and of course there Mr. Babaso speaking about Mr. Sithole's role in peace and mediation, and you note the journey that the IFP has taken, obviously working together with other political parties to bring about peace in KwaZulu-Natal and peace in Gauteng. So certainly a huge loss for the party. I'm going to leave it here for now, Criselda, as the program will now officially get underway.
Thank you very much, Ayanda, for that comprehensive update for us there. Ayanda Mhlongo, will certainly cross back to her once again. You'd know that the IFP President Velenkosini Hlabisa will be delivering the eulogy at that funeral service.